The top 5 different reasons why people buy gold and silver. After watching today's video, you'll have a better understanding of what type of buyer classification you may fall into and what types of precious metals you may or may not want to purchase or save for to have a more secure financial future. So we have a lot of great information to share with everybody today, so let's go ahead and dive right into the video. Hello everyone, my name is Rick Fronick. I'm the founder and CEO of silverandgoldsolutions.org, and I'm really excited to share this information with everyone today. So let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to be discussing the 5 different reasons why, the 5 top different reasons why most people save in the form of precious metals. This can be silver, gold, platinum, any type of precious metals. And to head it off, we got a hedge against poor government decisions and potential economic collapse, which right now, with the way our fearless leaders of a lot of the nations are running things, that's a really good one. There's also wealth accumulation, wealth protection, and then there's also portfolio diversification, because you definitely don't want to have all your eggs in one basket, whether it's real estate, stocks, crypto, silver and gold, whatever. You want to have a diversified portfolio. And then there's also coin collecting. That's another option that people purchase in the form of silver and gold or different types of platinum because of the collectible aspect of it. So we have a lot of great information, and with what I'm going to be sharing here, the main thing is to actually kind of, like I said, I've got down to empower yourself to learn and take responsibility of your financial future. A lot of times people know, like in the case of precious metals, specifically silver and gold, they've known for a long time, or they hear that it's important to save in it, but a lot of times people don't know how to go about doing it or what types they should save in. So that's what I'm going to try and do, is shed a little bit of light on that subject for everybody here. And when we're talking about the hedge against poor government spending and economic collapse, now I want to actually, I actually left this open here so I could blow it up so people can see it. Let me see. If you look at this, this part of the chart right here, in 2020, the U.S. money supply grew by 3.8 trillion in 2020, equal to 20% of all dollars ever created. So you have that specific thing right there where, just last, 2 years ago, and then with the different stimulus packages and that stuff here in the United States, so much money was created, but the main problem is, it's backed by nothing. It's fiat currency. It's basically a piece of paper. So whatever the government says that it's worth is what people can, buy with it. Okay. And, this all goes back to the biggest factor in this is going back to 1971 when President Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard. Prior to that, going back to 1944 after World War, at the end of World War II when the Bretton Woods Agreement was made, that was where the U.S. dollar, everybody was going to, globally was going to base everything off the U.S. dollar, because the U.S. dollar was as good as gold back then. It was backed by actual physical gold. But in 1971, Nixon went ahead and took the U.S. dollar off the gold standard. So ever since then, there's been the sharp, steady decline. Here we got 1971, and then it's you see how it is today. So the overall value of the U.S. dollar is steadily decreased. Okay, and so like I said here, with where the main thing is to give you some education as to what what to look for and what you might consider for saving for your future if you're able to do that. Okay, so with hedging against poor economic decisions, okay, and to fight that potential economic collapse. A lot of what's happened right now, especially with the stimulus, is that inflation's rising, and then there's hyperinflation, and at some point that bubble is going to burst. So they say, because the amount of dollars that are in the system right now, there's like I said in that graph there, it showed that 3.8 trillion were printed in 2020. Okay, so that's how much the economy has changed just in the last couple of years. But back when the dollar was backed by gold, it actually provided discipline for government spending. They couldn't they had to have gold to back every dollar that was printed. But ever since it was taken off the gold standard, that means the government can just pretty much, they have a printing press where they can actually just print the money at will. And that's kind of what's happened here, especially with the stimulus, going over the last 2 years. But the way to actually kind of fight that, so to speak, is when you actually, use the actual fiat currency, the paper money, to actually purchase gold or silver with it, or platinum, and that's where you actually take control of it yourself. Because with gold and silver and platinum, different types of precious metals, the government can't just instantaneously make it appear. That actually has to be mined and actually, formed, processed to become what it is, as what we use as far as currency goes, as far as bullions or different types of coins. But that's something that the government cannot control. Okay, so when you actually are able to actually save in the form of precious metal, actual physical precious metals, that actually puts the control back in your hands. Okay, it's kind of like I've got I have down here, it's insurance. Okay, so like you buy insurance. If you have a home, you buy a home, or even if you're renting, you buy renter's insurance, or if you have a car, you have car insurance, and it's to protect what you have. In this case here, with the one way that you can actually protect, against poor government decisions, and if there is an economic total collapse, like a depression or something, like going back to the 1929 with the Great Depression, and that having physical, tangible gold or silver or platinum or something, that is actually one way you can actually fight that. Because, like, say if the government decides that, like here in the United States, if they decide that the U.S. dollar is no longer going to exist, or it's not worth anything, what do you have? You have nothing. But if you have silver and gold has always maintained its value, over the course of time. Like I've said in some of my other presentations, what did one of the wise men bring the infant Jesus? They brought him gold, because even back then it had its significance, its value, its importance. And you go over the course of ages, everybody always knows that silver and gold has its value, so it's always going to be worth something. Whereas in this case here, fiat currency is pretty much a piece of paper, and it's really backed by nothing except for what our governments say that they're worth. Okay, so then you go over the course of history of time, some of the research that I've done is every type of fiat currency is ultimately failed and gone back to, it's basically a lot of global economies have collapsed because of the way the government just printed too much money, and then it just lost its value. Okay, so what I'm going to be discussing here with you now is, like I have this quote here from Ben Bernanke back in November 2002. The U.S. government has a technology called a printing press that allows it to produce as many U.S. dollars as it wishes at no cost, which is kind of what's happened here in the last year or two. Okay, so with hedging against poor government decisions, what do you want to buy, or what should you look into buying? So one of the things, I have a couple of things on here now. One that you want to look into is silver bars and gold bars, and this is actual raw bars, okay, that you could actually purchase. There's generic rounds, and that's basically when they refer to them as generic rounds. That's where they're taking silver and gold, and they're just are pretty much silver, and they're turning into coins, okay. But what you want to look at when you want to hedge against a poor government decisions and economic collapse is you want to look at stuff that's incrementally, like a fractional. Like you don't want to have like a 1 ounce gold bullion. Okay, like silver, that's different. It's a little bit different category. But like for with gold, you want to have like a 10th ounce, quarter ounce, half ounce, gold, and they do even have silver coins. It's just, you can get them. It's just that it's not widely talked about. But in this case here, because if you want to do it for like an economic collapse, you don't want to go into a grocery store to buy a loaf of bread, or it's a bunch of groceries with a 1 ounce gold coin. Okay, so you want to have it fractional amounts. That's why I had that down here, and from what the research that I done, that's what it's showing, because then you want to be able to have something that you can transact in. Okay, and that's why silver 1 ounce silver coins are, the American Silver Eagle. That's another good one to do, because you can actually transact in that. And I have down here, you want to focus on what's recognized worldwide. So like the silver eagles, the gold eagles, the buffaloes, the gold buffaloes, the maple leafs, the Canadian maple leaf, and then also the Britannias and Philharmonicers. Worldwide, you walk into any country or go into any country and you go to transact in them, people are going to recognize them as having its value. So if you're looking at it from an economic standpoint, those are the things that you want to look into. Okay, and that's why I do have down there why they're fractional, because if you're going to be using it for like day-to-day transactions, or if you think this is going to happen, then you would want to do something in fractional gold or silver. Okay, so in this is just kind of a picture here of the, you got the the gold, silver here, and then you got the buffaloes, you got the Philharmonicers, and then you got the maple leaves here. Okay, and then of course the one that you can also do is collectibles. Okay, because the reason with collectibles is because they're guaranteed when you get a graded collectible, and I have the ones here shown, these are ones actually that I do have. These are ones that, once they're graded, that means that they're guaranteed to be what they are. So like in this case here, these are like PF70s and MS70 coins, where they're actually exactly what they are. That means they're graded by a viable company, NGC, which is a Numismatic Grading Corporation. And it means that it's always, if you hand that to somebody, they know that it's pure, that it's exactly what it says it is. So that's something, as far as something as an option, is something you want to save in as well. Okay, so that's touching on the poor government decisions and economic collapse. But in this case here, what we're going to talk about next is wealth accumulation. Okay, and so in this case here, what's important about this section is you want to know, if you're doing it from strictly from the standpoint of wealth accumulation, you're going to want to know what types of precious metals to save in and how to go about doing it, so you can when it comes to paying taxes on anything that you liquidate, you want to make sure that you're doing certain things in a certain way, okay? And so also we're going to be talking about how you can convert it instantaneously. Now, there are companies out there that it will actually allow you to exchange your dollars for silver and gold and then convert it back into it as well. So we'll touch upon that in another video, but there are companies out there that do that. Okay, so with wealth accumulation, things to keep in mind. Okay, so there's a form called Form 8300 that deals with reporting any type of cash transaction over $10,000 or in a series of related transactions within a 24-hour period. So if you would go to liquidate certain types of silver or gold or whatever, and we'll touch on those in another screen here, which specific ones, you want to make sure that your transactions are not going over $10,000. So like if you were selling it back to one company, if you sold them back like $9,000 and then you waited, a day or a day and a half or whatever, and then you sold them another 9,000, those would not have to be reported, okay? But if you sold like $20,000 worth of silver or gold or, platinum or something to one specific company, they would have to report that, and you would get a form. You would have to have a form for 8300 when you're selling when you're doing your taxes, okay? And another one here is the Internal Revenue Service has a specific Form 1099-B that applies to specific bullion sales that are reportable items. And I'm going to show you that in the next slide here, which items those are. So that's something to keep in mind. So you got the Form 8300, and then you got also the Form 1099-B. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind if you're doing this from a wealth accumulation standpoint. Okay, so what items must be reported when you sell them? Okay, so we have gold and silver bars. Generic bars of all types, so whether it's silver, gold, or platinum. You have platinum, palladium. You have 1 ounce maple leaf and Krugerrands, and also the Mexican Libertads. And then the 90% silver coins, so like the older coins, I think it's 1960, I want to say 1966 or prior to that. Any of the coins that, like the silver, the silver dollars, the quarters, and the half dollars, any type of bulk coins like that, those are the ones that, if you do sell them to a company or whatever, those are ones that do have to be reported, okay? And so the currencies are, I guess we'll just talk about it this way, the ones that are not reportable. So when you go to make a purchase, this is for wealth accumulation, okay? So if you go to make a purchase and you do it through a bank debit card or credit card or cash, and it's under $10,000, these are items that on this list here are ones that are not reportable if you go to sell them back, okay? So this, keep in mind, okay? We have the Australian Perth Mint coins, any type of Austrian coins, Canadian silver maple leaf, and fractional ones, okay? And then there's also the American gold and silver eagles, fractional bullion coins, the Chinese panda coin, and also the American gold buffalo, okay? And so with this, part of the reason why these ones here are not reportable, and this is what the next screen is going to show you here, is back in 1986, when they actually came out with having this Form 1099-B when it was created. They were very, very specific as to what coins needed to be reported. And the ones that I'm listing here on this slide here, these ones here were not listed at all. So that's why, as long as you're as far as when you go to transact and sell it back, as long as they're under like this $10,000 limit, okay, per transaction. Okay, so these are ones that you would not have to report. So like if you went to a company and you had, I don't know, let's say with the American Gold and Silver Eagles. So with the American Gold, the Gold Eagles, okay, so if you had like 20 of them and you sold them back to a company, well, you would want to like, what I'm saying here is if it's an under a transaction under $10,000, so you want to make sure that you keep it underneath that. Like you could do multiple ones over the course of a couple of days, but in this case here, all these items are not reportable. Okay, so as far as your taxes, so like if you, let's say for example you had a gold coin that you bought when it was $400 and you went to sell it and it was, now it was like $2,000, so you have a $1,600 profit. Okay, that difference in what you sell it for is not reportable. Okay, so you do not have to pay taxes on that. So that's something that to keep in mind. But then also, one thing to keep in mind also is another category that falls into this is collectible coins, because in like the American Silver Eagle, that they didn't start making that until the current version of the Silver Eagle, they didn't start making that until 1986. Okay, so that is not reportable. But then also collectible coins aren't either, because that was something that wasn't really around back then. So the government didn't include that. Now, is this something that could change? Yes, the government could go back and revisit this, but they haven't done it since they created the form back in 1986. So you kind of use that as your judgment. But as far as just things to look at is like these. I'll bring this back up here so you can take another look at it if you want to take a snapshot of it or whatever. But these are ones that you want to look at as far as if you're doing it from the standpoint of wealth accumulation. Okay, and so I covered a lot of information here, and I could go in depth on the other three, but we're going to save that for another video. But I did want to finish with something here which is really kind of interesting, and you can actually look this up online. I literally did this like an hour ago before I put together this presentation, before I finalized everything. And when you look at the this is real interesting charts. Okay, so the 30-year gold price per ounce and the 30-year silver price per ounce. Okay, so you go back to 1993 or 1992, and we're right around the 300 range there. And look this is what gold has done over the last 30 years. Okay, you have the difference highs here in like 2011. And then look at what it's doing here, 2021, right before 2021, and it's doing this again. So this is something that, when you're looking at it from a wealth accumulation standpoint, this is something that if you want to do it for saving for 5, 10 years, 20 years down the road or something like this is something that's a good option to have. Same with silver. I mean, you look at what's happened with silver. You go back to 1993 and it was under $5 an ounce. Okay, and then it peaked actually at the highest it's ever been is actually, I think it's 48.58 per ounce was the highest it ever was. Okay, but we're seeing this where it dropped back down, but then we're also starting to see this uptick again. And so that's where a lot of times people are saying that some of the experts over the last year or two have been saying that gold is going to hit over $2,400 an ounce, and then silver is going to eclipse the $100 per ounce mark at some point. Whether that happens or not, nobody really knows. But with the kind of anytime the inflation is as high as it is, usually what happens is when there's periods of inflation, that's when the value of silver and gold actually does take off after actually the bubble bursts and everything kind of collapses for a little while there. So I wanted to share this information with everybody. I hope you really got some good insight from it. If you have any questions or anything, you want to give me some feedback, or if there's perhaps something that I didn't explain well enough, or maybe there's something maybe that you feel I explained incorrectly, which is possible, just shoot me, send me some feedback. I appreciate it, and I wanted to thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I enjoyed sharing this information with everybody, and like I said, this is something that just something to keep in mind and educate yourself as to what you should look for when you're saving in the form of precious metals. And I will have another video. It'll be a little bit shorter than this one, but it's going to cover the other three categories. But this one I thought would be a good one to start with. So I hope you got some great information from this. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out, and we'll talk to you again soon. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video. Take care.